What's up? What's happening? Welcome in to Boston has entered the chat. Got a special show for you guys today. Myself and Ountae Campbell in the PNC Bank studio. We got Khalin Kapoor coming in via Zoom to join us. Man, 3-host show on this one. How are you guys doing today, Khalin? Ountae?
Yeah, I'm doing great. This is awesome. I mean, it feels like I'm seeing double what I'm actually seeing triple. I wish I was there in person, guys. It would be a lot more fun, but happy to call in and be with you guys. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I love the jerseys that Cullen has in the background right there. I'm excited to be with you guys, man. It's going to be a great one.
Little Ovi, little Lemieux. We got a full show for you guys today. We go through what's trending. We'll go across the NFL. We'll do our power rankings after week 1 of NFL football is now concluded. You could guess who we all got number 1, but you never know. All three of us will give our top 10. We won't go 32. We'll give our top 10 and go from there. And we'll talk a little bit about the New York Jets, just looking like the New York Jets again. But let's get into what's trending. You guys, we all remember from the Olympics how breakdancing went viral for the worst reason ever, and that is viral Olympian breakdancer Ray Gunn. I'm not even going to go by like her full first name. She was terrible, like awful, like dancing like that I've seen better from my 4-year-old niece at a barbecue dancing to Baby Shark. That's better than what Ray Gunn did. Well, the WDSF put out their rankings, and she's the number 1 breakdancer in the world. Like I just got. How do you want to be taken serious, and how do you want to be an Olympic sport if someone that is terrible was clowned all across the internet? You're going to roll out and say that's your number 1? Like, Tay, I don't even know like where to even begin how this happens.
Look, it's clickbait. It's as simple as that.
Bro.
Just like how ESPN puts out their rankings and they got crazy stuff like saying LeBron James is the greatest player in the NBA today. You know, there's stuff like that you see. That's all this is. It's just clickbait. They want people to join into the debate of, who's the best break dancer, and get excited about the sport. Because I could tell you this, right? I saw all the memes, all the clips of it on the internet during the Olympics, but I can't name one other break dancer in the entire world. And so that's what it's going to force me to do. Go out there, do my research, watch the best break dancers, and figure out who I think is better than this woman. There's probably 1,000 people I can find. I'm going to be researching for the entire eternity of my life, so I'm not going to waste my time. Breakdancing is fun. It was fun to watch the clips, but we all know this isn't true. I dance better than her off the couch, and I'm a terrible dancer.
No, I was about to say, I got a family wedding coming up next week. If the World Dance Sport Federation pulls through to that, they're going to see 50 better dancers than Ray Gunn. And by the way, what the hell is the World Dance Sport Federation to begin with? They're not even counting the Olympics. This thing is it's clickbait. That's also did they see what she was doing during the Olympics? Did they see her flopping around and hopping and punching like she was inebriated or whatever? I don't know. This is obviously clickbait, and it was funny. I mean, it made me go back and watch that Olympic tape, and it made me laugh even harder. So I think it's all good.
She's playing all of us. I mean, she got to the Olympics just basically because, her husband, I think, was, on the selection committee.
Right.
I looked up, WDSF, as Colin, you put it, World Dancing Sport Federation, just 6,000 followers on Twitter. And I was like, all right, let me go up. And this is, Tay, you said it's clickbait. I'm going to their website. I'm like, who runs this? Wolfgang Ilash, Ingrid Fusik, Boloft Jensen. Those are 3 of the names I found.
Yeah, don't put any disrespect on Boloft Jensen's name.
Dude, none of them are younger than 60 years old. None of them are younger than 60. They don't know dancing. They're doing these rankings. All due respect to Boloft and his family, they're clowns. If that's what you're going to be an executive of this committee, you know what the hell you're doing. Doing this as number 1. The disrespect, if I'm actually a good breakdancer and I see Ray Gunn get 1, I'm just throwing my papers up, verbal meme, the soccer coach ripping off his headphones. I'm out of here. I'm not breakdancing ever again. I do not care.
Yeah, man, it's terrible. It's a terrible disgrace to the sport of breakdancing because I know we talked about it in the office when these viral clips showed up. We were watching all the other countries breakdance, and we were like, oh, my God, look at that. That is so athletic. So breakdancing is definitely a sport because we have some people in here who are like, oh, I don't know if breakdancing should be an Olympic sport. And I was like, did you see the way that dude spun on his head for 2 minutes straight?
The actual good breakdancers?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But the move she was doing, like I said, you said, your niece could do it. I could do it off the couch. There's no question about it. This is crazy.
Should it be number 1 if someone that's never done it is number 1 in the world? Or if number 1 could be number 1, can match that skill set. All right, Justin Fields, Interesting news out of Pittsburgh. Will start week 2 for the Steelers. The Steelers saying that Russell Wilson pretty much sounds like he's fine and the injuries behind him. They're going with Justin Fields. He led them to a win where they won 18-10, but it was all field goals, literally 6 field goals from Chris Boswell to beat the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, who can't move, coming off a torn Achilles. I see it. Superior athleticism, superior arm strength, just a higher ceiling for the Steelers offense. It's again a reminder of like whatever the Steelers are doing, like they have one quarterback that the Broncos are playing. They got another quarterback that's on a cheap prove-it deal. They got 2 guys they're not paying. They're just going to go with the guy with the higher ceiling. This is what they should have done all summer long. I guess they just waited for the season to kick off to get interesting and name Justin Fields their starter.
Yeah, I agree with you, George. Look, here's the thing. Justin Fields actually wasn't that bad compared to all the other quarterbacks around the NFL. Passing is just down, and we have to accept that. We don't have Drew Brees. We don't have Tom Brady. We don't have Phillip Rivers. We don't have Tony Romo. That era is over. You know what I'm saying? Where we were gunslinging and seeing guys complete 250 yards a game, easy. It's just not that way right now in the NFL. Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson right now, in my opinion. He's younger. He's more athletic. He can make things work with his feet. And his passer rating wasn't that bad. He had a 91.9 in the game. Like, it's okay. It's just okay. And that's all the Steelers need.
All right.
The Steelers only need that, though, George. You know what I'm saying? That defense is elite. It's an elite defense. Yes, Kirk Cousins look bad and whatever, and Kyle Pitts had to stand in the end zone waving his arms like
at least
this.
He has a quarterback that finally gets him the ball.
and finally get a touchdown, to start the season. But, holding that Falcons offense to an offense that people projected to be a good one to 10 points is impressive for the Steelers. They need a quarterback who's just not going to turn the ball over, and Justin Fields could be that for them.
We'll see if he could be. I don't know. Cullen, what do you think about this naming of him being their week 2 starter? Because it sounds like he's being their guy.
Yeah, I think it's the right call, and I think, Tay, you just mentioned that they held this Falcons offense. I mean, Kirk Cousins has one leg. He wasn't planting on his throwing foot. Maybe he gets better. But regardless, I mean, Fields wasn't taking risks over the middle of the field in this game, which is good because when he did that in Chicago, he threw interceptions into double and triple coverage. So all he really has to do, find Pickens on the outside, run the ball up the middle, either himself or with Najee Harris, and this team's going to win games on the strength of their defense. They are probably going to demolish Denver next week because Bo Nix doesn't look like he's an NFL-ready quarterback at this point. Now he's going to face TJ Watt in the Steelers, right? So Justin Fields is probably going to start 2-0, and when that happens, Mike Tomlin's probably going to have to ride the hot hand and keep Fields as his guy.
Yeah, I don't know about that Broncos defense. I mean, Patrick Surtain will certainly be a great cornerback for him to match up, but you're going higher ceiling here. It's not the sexiest pick, but Tay, I just want to go back. So you're saying like we don't got Phillip Rivers anymore. Who else you list off in that? Like we don't got Peyton Manning,
Drew Brees, Tony Romo.
We only have Patrick Mahomes,
Tom
Justin
Brady.
Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. We got CJ Stroud looking like it's still a passing league, but it's just going higher ceiling here. I was just like, we don't got Phillip Rivers anymore. I know you're a Chargers fan. I threw in your boy Justin Herbert in there earlier.
I was just talking about more gunslingers, like where we know we're getting 50 passes a game out of these guys. You know what I mean? That era is over. You know what I'm saying? So we're expecting your quarterback to come out there with the way these defenses are and how smart they are and how elite and fast these athletes are around the field. I mean, you bring it back to Deron Bland. He was a guy that was a nobody. You know what I mean? And he has the NFL record for picks in the season. Mm-hmm. Anybody can do anything on any given Sunday. That's how it is now in the NFL, especially with these defenses. They're figuring out offense, and it's ebbs and flows. There's wavelengths, right? Sometimes it's a high running game, and sometimes it's a low running game in the NFL. And right now, it's a high running game and a lot less passing.
We'll see how it goes. Like week 1, we saw like literally the lowest passing yardage average for all the quarterbacks, all the games in week 1 since 2007. Right now, we're seeing the after effects of these guys just not practicing in the summer and playing in the preseason. By week 4, week 5, we'll revisit this take of we got the gunslingers now. There's balance to it. It's also the defenses we see of saying we're going to sit back and not allow the big play to happen. You go ahead, complete plenty of 12, 15, 20-yard passes in front of us. We're not going to let anything behind our safeties. All right, finally wrapping up on the week 1, Jordan Mason, man. Shout out to him. What a coming out he had. The world didn't find out Christian McCaffrey wasn't playing until about a half hour before Monday Night Football kicked off between the Niners and Jets. Jordan Mason, 147 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Then after the game, Lisa Salters, one of the GOATs of the profession, on the field post-game interview, like, credit to you, man. You were the best player on offense that game. She asked him, Jordan, when did you find out you were starting? He said, Friday. And then all of a sudden, we saw Jordan Mason pissed off at the podium saying, so I don't speak with the media. You're asking when I'm starting, moving on to the next question. Because the Niners never listed Christian McCaffrey on their injury report, and you have to do that. You have to disclose injuries. So Jordan Mason won a game for the Niners, but it looks like a final will be coming down the pipeline for them. I mean, Khalin, what did you think about when you heard of this coming out? I was intrigued when Jordan Mason said Friday. I was like, oh, interesting. Like, good for the Niners keeping that under wraps. And then I went, wait. You have to list a player. And now it's coming to this of Jordan Mason kind of put his franchise in trouble.
Man, I just feel bad for all the people that lost money on this. I mean, you mentioned what's trending. Everything that I saw about this was this guy loses money because he bet on something. This guy loses money because he bet on something. And I also think, like, obviously it's not great that Jordan Mason got put in this situation, probably by upper management saying, you know, you probably should just said something like this. You probably should have kept it under wraps. But I didn't even know McCaffrey wasn't playing until this game kicked off. I was incredibly surprised. I didn't see the news until the game had already started, and I was like, what is happening here? So I can imagine other people who had already placed bets feeling the exact same way and feeling slighted because of this. So, yeah, it's a tough situation for the player. It's tough for the organization. If there is a fine to be handed out, they're going to have to deserve it. But, man, a lot of people lost money on this, and that's the toughest part about it for me.
And the people who lost money need to blame Niners PR, honestly, because I've been in those press conferences before as an athlete, and I've had my coach or PR person for whatever university I was at come up to me beforehand, and if there's a topic that's gonna come up, they prep me. They're saying, "Hey, I know you already know this, but don't say that. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. Please don't do this. Blah blah blah. Whatever." Right? So they should have told Mason, like, hey, they're going to ask you about McCaffrey. You didn't find out until the world found out. That's all you got to say. You know what I mean? And move on. It could have been that simple, but no one was thought to grab him before he got that interview and say, hey, like, just so you know, this is coming up, especially as a guy who is an undrafted rookie. You know what I'm saying? He's not used to cameras always being in his face all the time or doing a lot of press conferences and stuff like that. So you have to know that, hey, we have to be extra special with this. He had a great game. They're going to want to talk to him. He's an undrafted rookie. This is a special moment in NFL history and NFL lore. They're going to want to talk to him. So we need to prepare him. Simple as that.
That's what I was thinking of, just like knowing Patriots PR and the NFL teams I've like worked with, covered and all that. You got to go up and prep the guy exactly that of like, hey, if anyone asks, just say, like, Ted, you just said it. You found out when the world found out. Like, I didn't know till right before. It was just like the aftermath of him being at the podium and being asked, because it's also like Lisa Salters asked that because say if he said, oh, I found out right before kickoff, and he did that performance, that's sick. Even him finding out Friday night that he'll be getting the start on Monday night, and he still performed like this. I mean, the nerves that would build up from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way to kickoff. And he looked like a stud out there. Just tore up this Jets defense, which is supposed to be one of the best in the league. Jordan Mason, man, you know I was pissed at the podium because he got a tongue lashing from Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch or whoever because he cost that franchise money. They won a game. That was big. But the fines are going to come down. And you know what? Kyle Shanahan learned a valuable lesson that we've seen Bill Belichick do. Just put 25 guys on the injury report every single week. Oh, your shoulder's bothering you? Put him questionable with a shoulder injury. And then that way, the opponents you're facing, they won't be able to figure out who's actually injured and who's not. Put guys on there. You won't get fined for putting guys on there, but you'll get fined if you don't put guys on there. It sucks that this tainted, in a way, Jordan Mason's night. Not his fault, though. Not his fault. And also, like, the media asking the questions, not his enemy, not the ones that let him down here. It's Niners PR, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it, George. Like, it just sucks that this is probably the greatest day of his professional career. He's elevated Monday Night Football, biggest game of the season. Obviously, it's week one, but everyone in the world is tuning in. Everyone in the States is tuning in, and this happens. It just sucks. Hey, I got to ask you, I've never been in this position as an athlete. Have you ever, like, gone off script when you got a little PR training? Did you ever freestyle up there on the podium?
Of course. You got to go off script a little bit. It's just like when I sit here and I'm on Boston Inners in the chat and our producer, Brendan, is like, hey, Ountae, move on to the next topic. And I'm like, hey, George, you want to talk some more about this? Yeah, bro. Going. It's exactly like that. You got to go off script a little bit sometimes. This is part of the game. It's a sport. It's a kid's game. You're supposed to have fun. And that's what you got to do at the podium. Have a little fun.
We finally get transparency and some honesty from athletes, like, because they are media trained. Like, you can tell the athletes that are given the talking points and hammer those home. Jordan Mason just being genuine in that moment, excited. I can only imagine adrenaline he's going through. Next time we see him at the podium, man, he's going to be going Marshawn Lynch on that. Like, yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Nah, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I keep throwing that out that way. So we'll see. All right, and that concluded a week one of the NFL where we saw everything. But we got to get into what the NFL season literally kicked off with on its first Sunday. And that was as we were all getting ready to sit down on our couch or get into work, whatever we were doing to cover those games on Sunday. We all saw the videos of Tyreek Hill being pulled over for careless driving, speeding on his way to Hard Rock Stadium, but then the aftermath of him being handcuffed. Well, the body cam footage came out, and what we saw here was Tyreek Hill being pulled over by the Miami-Dade police, him in his car, speaking to the police officer, then rolling his window back up. It's dark. It's tinted. I understand why you want the window down. The cop initially at the window just knocking on it and say, hey, put it down. We want to see you put it down. Then the second it was put down, told him get out of his car. And that's where it literally went 0 to 100 of the cop on the right. Second the door goes ajar, roping his arm around Tyreek Hill's neck and just ripping him out of the vehicle. Like, you go careless driving, you're speeding, you should get pulled over. You're driving like 60 into 35. It doesn't result in this, especially them pinning him on the pavement, putting his knee in his back to handcuff him. When Tyreek Hill, yeah, don't put the window up, but Tyreek Hill wasn't being that big of a jerk or anything to justify this type of response from the cops.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, Tyreek definitely wasn't being as big of a jerk as this situation warranted. Like, here's my thing about it, George, is though, like, as a black man in America, there are a couple of things that you learn from birth, and they're taught to you by your parents. And it's when you're in a situation like this, because it's going to happen. You are going to get pulled over by the cops being a black man in America, whether you are speeding like Tyreek Hill or you're driving and following the rules of the road.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen. The things that you learn are, comply, be very calm, talk in a manner of, respect and all that other stuff, even if you are being disrespected, because it could be the difference between life and death. And that's the honest truth. You know what I'm saying? So Tyreek, I understand that he's a famous person. I've seen many of famous people get pulled over, videos. They have their windows tinted, limo tint, whatever, and they ask the officers, can they put it up because they don't want people to see them because they're famous. Sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say no. But at the end of the day, whatever they decide in that moment, you need to listen to, because luckily for him, it was down the street from a game. His teammates were around, but it could have been a totally different situation, right? And so for Tyreek to act the way that he did was not the right thing at all. But for the police officers to react to his poor reaction in that manner is unacceptable. And I'm happy to see that these people are having repercussions for their actions. And it sucks that it has to be someone as famous as Tyreek Hill for the repercussions to happen so quickly. Yeah. But this is just the honest, we all got a view of what it's like to be black in America. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah, and it sucks that it took an incident like this for people to start talking about this stuff again. Obviously, there have been horrific incidents in the past few years that have made this a talking point. But now that it's an NFL player, all sorts of news outlets feel like, oh, now we can start talking about this again. And I mean, look, all three of us are people of color. I mean, we know the reality here that other people just don't know. And that reality is what Ountae was talking about and what Tyreek Hill was talking about. And I think him kind of being the quote-unquote better man when he went up to the podium after this game and said, hey, I want to use this to have reforms being made. I want change to be made. That's exactly the right way to go about it, with, in retrospect, with the benefit of hindsight for him in particular. He didn't go up there and flame anybody. He didn't go up there and really reinforce the already negative perception that other people have of him. I spent a lot of time on social media looking at the reactions, and a lot of it is pretty appalling. They're saying, Tyreek Hill was acting, in a way that justify the police response. And that's just absolutely untrue. And the last thing I'll say about this is that having body cams is great because you see what is actually happening. It just makes me think of, what aren't we seeing? What isn't being recorded on body cams? What hasn't been recorded on body cams in the past? And just how bad is this problem actually? Because this is a root problem. This isn't something that just started because people started filming it, as we all know, as us three probably know more than other people. So this is something that is a huge problem, and it sucks that it's taken someone with the name and stature of Tyreek Hill to take it back to the mainstream, because it should be something that needs to be talked about a whole lot more.
Yeah, these are conversations we've seen in the spotlight, like going back to 2020 and obviously going back before then. But like, we saw all the good change that came out of 2020, but it was also for something so horrific to happen, like someone being murdered by the police because of how he was pinned on the ground, similar to the fashion we saw from Tyreek Hill. And we still see it happening today. And even the guys that were put on administrative leave, like one of those was a police officer with a 27-year tenure. So you wonder, it wasn't just Tyreek Hill was the first time something like that happened. Like, those are habits. That's something they're done. And for officers, how they're trained is to de-escalate. And for people to saying, well, it's the way he reacted. Again, like Tay and I were talking about it as this stuff was unfolding on Sunday. And I said it. I said it to him of like, I was 0% shocked to see this happen, or like for Tyreek Hill to be put in this situation of a guy of, I could see him speeding and I could see him doing put the tints up. But the second that tint goes down, you don't just rip someone out of their car like that and throw them down to the ground. And also, even further on what the body cam footage showed of, he's handcuffed, he's standing up, he's clearly calm. There's one officer with his hands on him just to keep him there in his spot. Another officer comes from behind and rips him down. And then that goes into what happened to his teammate Campbell as well, who him and John O. Smith pulled over to check on Tyreek Hill. So it's clearly a spot where a lot of players come in. You see the video, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, of Calais Campbell walking up to the officers, being told to go back. And before you see this, his hands were up, walking away. They come from the other side of the car, and all of a sudden he's getting handcuffed. The guy's walking away. He is de-escalating himself. And then you put him in handcuffs. What do you think that's going to do? Irk him, piss him off, but also, again, it's just like not de-escalation happening. And Khalin, I know you pointed out, but I'm fully aware of like, yes, I'm Arabic, but I'm white passing. I've been pulled over by police, and I know because of the areas that they pulled me over, me making a left on a red or a green where I wasn't allowed to, they pulled me over. They go, this guy, he's just a white guy just driving through, made the wrong turn, go on ahead. Or I've been handcuffed in the past, and then within a minute, they were taken off because, again, they saw us being calm. But I know my experiences with the police are very different, especially for someone like Ountae. Like, this is the reality. And people are pissed off to get the reminder, but, like, this is America. Like, this is what it's like to be black in America and dealing with the police. Black people are treated differently than someone that looks like me. People are just pissed off to get that reminder, but they're just naive and they want to be ignorant to the fact of that this happens, you know? Because there are good officers out there. There are officers that de-escalate situations. This one was handled very poorly. Could Tyreek Hill have kept the window down? Yes. Could the officers, did they need to rip him out of the car? Absolutely not, because you saw the whole time he was calm too. That's why, like, Tay, when we look at what happened and why I was happy, at least I was like talking with you through it on Sunday of just like, I know we talk about this stuff, and for me, it's my experience will always be different of what your experience is or what our coworker, our co-host Travis' experience is like. Same thing of dealing with the police.
Yeah, 100%. And you see videos online all the time of police officers pulling over a car or whatever, and then somebody who they knew was near, and they stopped 100, 200 feet down the road, and just kept calm and made sure that the person that they were with were okay, right? They might have got out the car, and maybe the police officer does tell them to step back in the car, right? But if they don't, they're respectful. They usually call for backup, so that they're more comfortable about not being outnumbered, right? In this situation, the police were completely outnumbering the Miami Dolphins in this situation. They had all the power, all the control, and they made it a point to take even more power. And the thing about it is just like, I understand that in both situations, both parties have big egos, right? NFL players, police officers, they all think what they do is very important to the world, right? And it is, right? We all need entertainment and we all need protection in that type of sense, right? But my thing is like, the police officer's job is to protect and serve the community, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're doing this and you're clearly causing an uproar by your actions and everybody is upset and just asking questions. It's simple. Like, hey, what's going on here? Why is this happening? And your first thought is, oh, wow, these guys are big and intimidating, and I need to make sure that they know I'm the dominant figure in this situation. That's where you completely cross the line. And that's where I get upset to see these videos, because these guys were calm. Like you said, Tyreek standing there, already handcuffed, already been taken down to the ground. Now he's standing back up with his hands behind his back in cuffs, being held by a police officer, said something. I don't know what he said, but it wasn't aggressive at all in any nature, and gets slammed down to the ground because he didn't like what Tyreek had to say. That's insane. You know what I'm saying? When he's already, I mean, the NFL knows, right? Defenseless receiver, right? You got to, if somebody can't protect themselves, you don't want to put them in an even worse position. Why don't, if the NFL can understand that, right? For somebody who's not able to defend themselves and in a weak position already is being out there, and the police officers don't understand that, hey, like, let me not destroy this person and put them down and all this other stuff. Like, the mental gymnastics that you put a man through when you have them in that position, slamming them to the ground twice while they're in handcuffs so that you can feel more powerful. And now when Tyreek goes out of his house, because he's human, he might be an NFL player, but he's human. Now every time he gets in his car, now every time he drives past that street, he has to think about these moments, and he's going to feel a little fear. It might not be much, but he's going to be nervous about that situation every single time he gets in his car for the next couple of weeks, and who knows, maybe for the rest of his life. So it's important that these police officers get help, get more training. Hopefully these guys never step back on in the field, and we need to have better reform for these police officers, because they need to learn from this situation.
And it's like you said, Tay, of like how close it was. And Tyreek Hill said himself, he's like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill? Like, these situations can be life or death, because they probably got to the point they recognized it was Tyreek Hill. And to your point too, again, of like the de-escalation, like he's standing there. He's handcuffed. Calais Campbell, Jonnu Smith are checking on him. Calais Campbell's walking away. Jonnu Smith was stepping backwards while on the phone, just looking after his teammate, and they continue to go to them and go to them and go to them. There has to be a de-escalation process. And that's why when people call for police reform and for how they're trained and for how they handle situations like this, because you shouldn't treat someone differently or view them as a threat just because of the color of their skin, or you feel like you can get away with certain things because of the color of their skin. Again, that doesn't justify how to treat anybody, but that is a reality of what it is. And that's what we saw on Sunday. And it sucks where it's like, we work in sports because we love sports, because it's fun, and we see things like this happen. And this is like the setback of reality of like, just the reminder of like, A, how lucky we have it, but also of like, as much fun as we want to have it, we want to talk about sports, like this is a serious things. And for the human beings that aren't as lucky or gifted as someone like Tyreek Hill or any NFL player, when they're put in these situations, the ending is far different. And where it's just something where it can end, where they don't have the benefit of, A, the body cam being there, but B, of the public being behind their back because of who they are and them having the platform to put this wrongful treatment out there as well.
And this is why in sports, having that platform is so important, and actually doing something with it is so important. I always think back to what Fox News host Laura Ingraham said once, which was shut up and dribble to an athlete that was trying to be an activist and trying to make things known. I think it was in the NBA. And it's like, when something like this happens and you see the intersection between the two parties, that being sports and activism, or sports and politics, whatever you want to say, you realize how just unbelievably stupid the mindset of shut up and dribble actually is. And I think about this situation, Tyreek Hill said that he feared for his life. He said this was a traumatic experience. And you can understand why. This whole situation is action and reaction. Tyreek Hill rolling up his window, like Tay said, maybe not the best thing, definitely not the best thing you should do. It does not warrant being tossed out of the car, getting pinned down to the ground with a knee on the small of your back. It's just not. And that's why, we live in this bubble of sports journalism, obviously, but when that bubble gets punctured, like it was on Sunday, you see the actual reality of what every single person goes through, especially people of color. So yeah, I mean, athletes being activists is not a bad thing. I think Tyreek Hill embracing that, and hopefully we see some change down the line, especially in Miami-Dade, but hopefully, wide scale and holistic. then we're going to see why someone like Tyreek Hill utilizing his platform is so important for everybody.
We'll see what Tyreek Hill has to say. He'll be speaking with the media Wednesday afternoon, first time since after the game when that happened. All right, let's get into after the week one. Also, to mention, the Dolphins won that game. Tyreek Hill had an 80-yard touchdown. His celebration, Jalen Waddle coming up behind him, putting him in handcuffs like chef's kiss by Tyreek Hill of showing him, like, you put me through that traumatic experience, still go out, do my thing, and still go out and be the guy that I am. Let's get through. Let's go rank top 10. We'll go one by one. Khalin, since you're the guy that's remote, we'll start with you. You're the guest of the guest in this one. Let's go 10 through 1. I want to hear yours of your top 10 power rankings for the NFL through 1 week.
So you said that we're all going to have the same number one. I'm not quite sure if we're going to, because I have the Niners number one. I don't have the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you guys were thinking Chiefs the entire time. I think San
You have to wait
Francisco
for mine.
absolutely bludgeoning the Jets without Christian McCaffrey and without a healthy Brandon Ayuk is mind-boggling to me. This team's going to be amazing, and if Jordan Mason can actually be great, then that's going to be good as well. I'll speed run through the next ones. And I have Eagles at number 2, then the Kansas City Chiefs, then the Detroit Lions, Baltimore Ravens, Houston Texans. I liked what I saw from the Dallas Cowboys, even though they were playing against the whatever it is we can call Deshaun Watson. Then I have Miami down in the 8th spot. The final 2 is Green Bay. I have right there on the cusp at number 9. And number 10, like I was seeing people put Cincinnati. I'm not ready to put Cincinnati up at number 10 just yet because they don't look complete to me right now. So I kind of struggle with that one. I like the idea. I'm going to put a dark horse out there. Even though they lost week 1, I'm going to put the Indianapolis Colts up there because Anthony Richardson is just a guy. Like he was on demon time, even though he lost. He only completed 9 passes, I know, but damn, that 60-yard touchdown, inject that into my veins. That was so cool. So that's my top 10.
I like the ceiling of Khalin. Like, he's just going straight ceiling on everyone.
Yeah.
Just only 9 completed passes. No, that 60-yard touchdown to Alec Pierce was absurd. I mean, he couldn't step into the throw. I don't know if both his feet were even set.
Yeah.
And that's why AR went where he went in the draft to being a top 4 pick because it throws
At
like
least
that.
I didn't put the Commanders in the top 10 because that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Hold on. I got to go back to that. Did I hear that correctly? My IFB might be messing up. Did you say you have the Eagles as the 3rd best team in the NFL right now?
I think did you go 2?
You heard wrong. I have the 2nd best team in the NFL right now.
Wow. Okay.
I
George?
stand by. We're going to see what happens at the end of the season, guys. I'm standing by it.
Tay, go with yours. No, man, I'm the host of this one.
Okay.
I go last on this one.
Excuse me. All right. So I'll go 10-1 like George asked us to do, actually. And I'm going to start off with a team at 10 with the Bills. I think they are a good team. Their defense is really shoddy right now. And honestly, when you have the Cardinals, who barely know who their running back number 1 is, running the football through your nose every single time, you have a problem, right? So their defense wants to take the big plays away like George was talking about. That's kind of a point of emphasis around the NFL, but that's scary. All right, running through quickly. Dolphins at 9, Rams at 8, Texans at 7, Cowboys at 6, Eagles, your Eagles, at 5. I can't do 2. Lions at 4, Ravens, after a loss to the best team in the NFL, I have them at 3. They were a toenail away from winning that game. And then the 49ers at 2, and, of course, the Chiefs at 1.
All right, I like that.
What are we doing with the Rams in the top 10, man? Come on. Like, you're clowning me about putting the Eagles at number 2. You're putting the Rams that have 2 offensive line injuries, no Puka Nacua for 4 weeks, and Matthew Stafford, who is perpetually 1 hit away from being out for the season. Like, come on. What are we doing?
I am, because I believe that Lions team is that good. And they honestly had a big task in replacing Aaron Donald. And Jared Verse was getting to Goff at every chance he got during that game. So I think that defense, especially with those things, like all of those things that you said, all those missing people, offensive line, Puka Nacua, Stafford maybe going down sometime soon. I still think this team has a chance to climb up. And honestly, I know I'm a little high on them, but I think they should be in the top 10.
I think that Rams offensive line, like watching them, my favorite part of that game, and remember, like, lost 2 starting offensive linemen, lost Puka Nacua. the Lions had to get the ball first in overtime. Now ran it down their damn throat. You'll see where Lions rank for me. But that's how to the wire they took Detroit, who many are picking to come out of the NFC. I just think back to when they put the lowlights of their left tackle that stepped in 61. They were highlighting them. Like, not once did Chris Collinsworth go like, that's a hold, that's a hold, that's a hold, that's a hold, which is all he was doing. And Aiden Hutchinson, especially of them, they're going, we're just going to hold him every time. And the refs letting it happen. This Rams team's down bad injury-wise right now, but they still took the Lions to the wire. My top 10.
Wait, George. Before you get into your top 10, here's my thing, too. You want me to fault a team for being not healthy, but then we don't know how long CMC is going to be out. You look sloppy. You know what I'm saying?
Where do you have the Packers, Khalin?
I had the Packers, I think, at 9, maybe.
No, Jordan Love, 3 to 6 weeks.
He's going to be out for like 2 weeks. He's going to be back.
So that's my thing. You're over here, you say, oh, well, those injuries don't matter. But then Puka Nacua is now – did you see Cooper Kupp? Cooper Kupp was hooping.
21 targets and 100 yards. Like, that's – come on. Like,
he was hooping.
He was running,
2021 Cooper Kupp.
Yards, catching the ball, and then running 2 more yards. Like, give me a break.
And that's what got him to be the best receiver we've seen in the season back in 2021. Hey, the injuries dictated my top 10. 10 long time ago. 10 Bills.
Okay. 9
Cowboys, because I got to see more from a team that you beat up on an opponent without their 2 starting offensive tackles. And basically a lifeless corpse at quarterback is what remains of Deshaun Watson, that dusty dude. 8 is the Rams, coming off that loss, but because of who they lost to. And again, that one being in Detroit too. 7 Dolphins, 6 Texans, 5 Ravens, coming off a loss in Kansas City, but took the Chiefs down to the wire. 4, I have the Eagles, and that is a team that went toe-to-toe with the Packers. And Jordan Love going down or not with 5 seconds to go, I don't think the Packers come out and win that. But seeing this Eagles team with that defensive line, with those young corners executing, and Saquon Barkley with that offensive line, those wide receivers on the outside to open up the box, what he can do, it's going to be scary. 3, I went Lions. Because in overtime, they simply said, we're going to keep giving the ball to David Montgomery. We're not going to take him out of the game. You guys know what we're going to do. You're not going to stop us. 2, I go Niners, and 1, I go Chiefs. Because you know what? They have 15. They weren't even at full strength offensively without Hollywood Brown. And this is a team trying to figure out its defense as well. Lamar was unreal. He was slippery, but it was him and Isaiah Likely and no one else. It really was a one-man show what they did with their defense to take Baltimore's offense off its A game. So that's why I give the Chiefs that 1. I see the Ravens at 5, and this is the one thing, too, I look at. This is my week 1 power rankings. I'm not projecting 3 weeks from now. I'm not projecting Super Bowl.
Nope.
The one I will see fall the furthest, and you guys can put a pin in this. We could bring it back if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. The Ravens at 5, I think they fall. Because we see a lighter Lamar and how slippery he is in the pocket. But that was Lamar, and I love seeing the competitor come out of him and Mahomes. Like, Mahomes going in, pushing Pacheco into the end zone. Lamar not running away from contact, but Lamar doing this in week 1. He's not going to be able to sustain it, to do it 14, 15 into the playoffs, banged up, and a guy that lost weight so he can't be as durable. It's not going to be the same Lamar we see then, and that's what's going to hinder the Ravens from making a run like they need to get back to an AFC championship game. I'm calling it right now.
Go ahead, Cullen. Go ahead.
Game plan wise, Lamar's not going to run 19 times a game. He just can't. Like, and if they do that, I think you're right, George. Like, something's going to happen. And you got Derrick Henry for a reason. Harbaugh said they're not going to run him 30 times. How about run him, I don't know, like 20 times and cut Lamar's carries a little bit. So I don't think they're going to fall. I have them, I think, at 5 as well. I can see them sticking around. But yeah, Tay, go ahead. I feel like you're a lot higher on the Ravens than both of us.
Well, I just got to go quick. This Ravens defense lost a lot. DC, defensive line coach, lost Geno Stone, like lost dudes. When you lose that much on a defense, you're going to need Lamar to be Lamar a lot more. I just don't see him sustaining it. Tay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they saw something with Derrick Henry in the first half. Like, they gave him the ball, and then they kind of slowed down on him. But I think they're going to spread out his carries a little more throughout the game, and when he's going to have those big runs that Derrick Henry is going to have, because he's not off the cliff just yet. He's on his way, but he's not there yet. And I know Harbaugh came out and said, like, oh, we didn't have him as our, 20, 30 carries a night guy, whatever Harbaugh said about that. I think you're still going to see more because there were opportunities that they probably should have handed Derrick Henry the ball that they didn't, and they understand that in a loss, right? So I agree. Lamar's not going to run as much as we saw him run, but Derrick Henry will run a little bit more than we've seen him run in game 1.
We'll see. I just don't know. Lamar's going to still do his thing. I don't know if he can sustain it. All of us had the Niners top 2, right? Maybe
Yes.
top 3.
Yeah.
We'll call you had
Cullen had
Niners
him
1.
3. 1, right.
He had his Eagles too.
Yes.
The Jets. Cullen, I think did you have them in your top 10 or no? I'm not trying to come out your list now.
Not yet.
Tay, did you have them in your top
Heck
10?
no.
Dude, the Jets suck again. Like
No.
Dude, they have Quinnen Williams, one of the best defensive linemen to ever play, like talent-wise, one of the most talented to ever play the game. You could say the best defensive lineman in the NFL right now. They got manhandled, and I know the Niners' offensive line's great. Their D-line got pushed around. They got dominated on defense. Brock Purdy was picking them apart with Brandon Ayuk dropping passes left and right. With Deebo Samuel have to taking snaps at running back because they were shorthanded. That defense got picked apart. And Rodgers in the offense, it'll take a few weeks for them to get going. But they just got beat too. Like, this Jets team actually has me worried with the defense looking like that, because everything I say about this Jets team, where I say they should win the division, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get to the AFC Championship game, is because of that defense. And the defense, I know the Niners are one of the best teams in the NFL. That defense should look better than that. They were getting carved up by Brock Purdy, dude.
And they're getting carved up by, we all think one of the best teams in the NFL. I don't think it's time to pound the panic button. Obviously, it's the Jets, so the prerequisite will always be they're done, they're toast, they're washed. And I will say, Aaron Rodgers had one drive where he looked like Aaron Rodgers, and that's honestly impressive because he hadn't played for 2 years since tearing his Achilles, obviously, last week. I do think, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes going in and pushing Pacheco on a potential game-extending play on 4th down when they ran the ball up the middle on inside zone for no reason. Rodgers was just standing there, not pushing Breece Hall forward like he was contemplating his next darkness retreat. I didn't see a lot of pure leadership there in that play, which I found a little bit troubling, especially because they had a chance to come back and win that game. No, I don't think the Jets suck. I don't think we need to sensationalize this narrative anymore, but we have to see, can Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers for more than one drive? If not, they're not going to win they're not going to win a lot of games. But with the offense, with an okay defense, maybe it's not going to be world beating. I think they're going to be just fine, and they're in a division where they could challenge to win, at the very least get a wild card spot.
And I'm right there with Cullen. Look, let's start with the defense, okay? The defense was okay at best, right? Brock Purdy wasn't getting pressured as much as he probably should have been. But the defense was getting stops. They weren't letting them score in the red zone. Jake Moody, I have friends that were crying to me on the phone about how Jake Moody is the reason they lost in fantasy this week because he kicked 6 freaking field goals. That's my thing.
Chris Boswell had 5, and Brandon Aubrey had 4.
This 49ers offense is special. Now, let me go to the Jets offense, right? They just looked a little shaky, a little rusty in week 1, right? First time playing a full game with Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall fumbled an uncharacteristic fumble because Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the world. You know what I'm saying? You had Lazard dropping some balls. Garrett Wilson dropped the ball that ended up becoming an interception. Rodgers looked good. This team is going to need more of Rodgers passing the ball and more of their guys getting used to catching passes from Rodgers, and this offense will be fine. It wasn't a great night. It wasn't. It just honestly wasn't. But they scored twice. And so they scored twice, 2 touchdowns, and so did the 49ers. They had 2 touchdowns from the night as well. If you add all the field goals, blah, 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 they had a couple miscues, couple drop balls, couple penalties. This game could have been completely different. Hold your brakes on the Jets.
Garbage time touchdown from Alan Lazard. Even when he caught it, he looked at the camera. He's like, I'm not going to celebrate, which I was surprised. It's maturity.
It was Tyrod
from
Taylor,
Alan Lazard.
throwing that one. I was surprised he was still in the league.
Yeah, serviceable backup. You ask New York Giants fans, they wish he was their backup so he could actually be their starter.
I was talking about the 2 real scores that they had in the game. The 2 real scores, not the Tyrod Taylor one. You know what I'm saying? That's a third score. That's why I didn't include that one. That's a third score.
Hey, still seeing the clips of Nathaniel Hackett on that sideline no matter what. Either Rodgers ignoring him or they're talking. If your OC's down on the sideline, not up in the booth, that means you're going a little more hands-off with him because that's a guy that's been in the booth when he's been an offensive coordinator. Him being around this offense, it just reeks. We'll see what Rodgers could be. They shouldn't be top 15. The defense is what has me worried. That wraps things up for Boston has entered the chat. He's Khalin Kapoor. He's Ountae Campbell. I'm George Balekji in the PNC Bank studio. Thank you so much for listening and making us a part of your day. Wherever you get your podcasts, please like, subscribe, rate, review, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime. If you're watching on Nesson's YouTube page, hit that subscribe button. Same thing on Twitch. We'll see you guys same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good one.
Peace.